Aloha Maui Nui. Hello, this is Josh Porter here.
And Jason Farquhar. It is the SolarCoaster.
Episode number 36.
36.
The SEIA episode, Solar Energy Industry Association, with Abigail Ross Hopper. This is a good one, Jay.
Yeah, absolutely. We were waiting for this interview for a couple weeks. We knew it was coming, but we couldn't quite get it on the schedule. Finally got a hold of her, and it's interesting, so stay tuned.
Great way to start the year out. Still, it's the second episode of the year here with the SolarCoaster, and we got a solid 25 minutes of good content. Really dug in with Abigail Ross Hopper, the president and CEO of SEIA. This is the chief kind of lobbying organization for the solar energy industry in the United States.
Yeah, what is it? Solar Energy Industry Association is the actual name. That's what SEIA stands for. Yep. They are a Washington, D.C. based organization representing all of solar in the United States, essentially.
And I'm not going to give too many spoilers. We'll hear it in the interview.
Yep.
But what is really cool is they've been in business for 43 years, or business. They've been doing this for 43 years.
Yeah, they're a lobbying organization representing solar. And what that says to me is that they were there at the very beginning when it was still NASA making solar panels to put on the space station. That's pretty much the only people out there making solar panels.
I feel like there was some guy at NASA that's like, hey, I made a solar panel, and he called up his buddy in D.C. and he's like, make an organization.
It was probably that. We're going to have to dig into history and find out.
Yeah, I mean, she said 43, and I was like, did I hear you right? Yep. So we're going to hear some really interesting information. It's fairly political. We get a lot going on in the country right now. So we're going to go into that as soon as we possibly can. We are going to reserve some time. This is a pre-recorded session. We did speak with Abby earlier yesterday. That was how we made it work, right?
Yep.
And, we actually got a commitment for her to do an in-studio show when she makes it to Maui. I think she's looking for a little time out here in Maui.
Probably. Well, after this is finally closed, I think she's going to take a little break.
Yeah, really. She's in the middle of some. So it's why is it so relevant? Well, basically, you have this pending tariff issue. The White House is just about to make their decision about the tariffs. It's due on the 26th. They could come at any moment. So she is at the lead. She's kind of the tip of the spear here in dealing with protecting the solar industry in the United States. So we're going to hear all about that from Abby shortly. And after we hear that, we're going to have an open call-in session. So if anyone would like to give us a call, please do. 242-7800, 242-7800. And we can talk a little bit about what Abby had to say. And we got some other things kind of in the hopper too.
Yep.
So we are the SolarCoaster renewable energy themed talk show right here in lovely Maui County, Fridays at 1:05 p.m. here at KOI 1110 AM. Ka'oi. I don't have to say KOI anymore. Ka'oi. 96.7 FM Central Maui, 96.5 FM West Side, 98.7 FM Upcountry. And I said before, call-ins, 808-242-7800 is our call-in line.
Yep.
So you can find us on the web. Jay, and tell us about that.
Sure. www.solar-coaster.com. That's solar-coaster.com. You can listen live. Check out our live stream right now. We're on YouTube. Hello.
Hey, everybody.
And get on the mailing list as well, so you find out what's going on in solar.
Absolutely. And we are sponsored by a great group of companies: Maui Solar Project, Tabuchi Electric America, Sonnen Battery, and Pika Energy.
Thank you, guys.
And a little special shout out to Pika Energy. They're going to be on island next week.
That's right. They're here. I actually really, really want to go to this training, except I'm not an installer, so I'm trying
we're going to try to make that work.
I want to go.
It's going to be like, here's MSP in the coaster. Like a whole crowd of people are coming in.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
well, that could be fun, but see if you can get me in.
We're working on it. We have podcasts too, Jay. We're starting to get a little bit of action there too, some sharing.
Absolutely.
And some
you can find all of course, if you go to the Solar-Coaster website, you can get all our previous podcasts off of SoundCloud, but we're also available on iTunes, Stitcher, and TuneIn. So you can find us on all those platforms.
Nice. Check it out. Good archived out there. And so the new feature, we've been working on transcription, which is really cool. So if you want to read, if you're like, you know what, I'm not sure if what Josh said was accurate. I heard him say that thing. You're going to have an actual transcription.
Well, I'm not sure the transcription is accurate. That's been kind of the point of contention for us.
In full disclosure, we're editing the transcripts. So we have to, right?
Yeah, well, you have to edit them because they go through a computer.
Right.
And the computer spits out all sorts of interesting things. I know I didn't say that. Go back and listen to it. But, yeah.
So the transcripts are up in our blog section. There's one transcript up so far. We're going to keep going with that. It is an interesting thing because you can kind of go back. What did we say? What was that issue? What did she say? What did the guest speaker have to comment on that particular issue? It's like a timestamp to it.
And it's searchable. That's the nice bit.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. So do check that out, the transcription. We have some cool memes up. We got some infographics. We haven't done the infographics yet. Anything else new that we're working on to push the envelope, gentlemen?
Nope,
Yeah,
doesn't sound like
pretty
it.
much
Okay.
it. Okay.
So this is already an awful lot of work. The
Yeah.
transcriptions alone are like each one is like 4 hours of 4 man hours.
Right.
Oy.
So, okay, we want to jump right into our news and events section, Jay.
Sure. Okay. So the first thing we got is right out of China. The Tesla already posted up on Facebook that Tesla already has 1,000 superchargers across China, and they're planning on doubling that by the end of this year, this new year being 2018. So more superchargers than I knew existed in the whole world. I didn't think we had that many around. But when we were in California, we actually went to the Tesla dealership. We saw the map, and they have this lovely animated map on the TV that shows all the superchargers and the highest energy density. You know, the ones that are pumping the most energy out into vehicles on the list. And of course, Beijing was number 1 on that list. But now there's a whole lot more behind us.
Yeah. So it's
are there really that many Teslas in China? That's an interesting question. You know.
What's the quantity? I mean, one would tend to lead to the other, right? So if they have a dominant amount of superchargers, that probably.
Well, yeah, but I have to wonder: are they rolling out a whole lot of superchargers in order to? I mean, China's another country where the brand recognition is all. You know,
right.
Tesla being a hot commodity, they would want to have the infrastructure to support the brand that facilitates sales, but I don't know.
Yeah. So it could be like either they have the S's to the Model S's and X's to support the superchargers already, or they're putting in all the superchargers because they know the 3s are just going to go bonkers. Basically, they're going to sell loads of Model 3s, and they're going to have huge presence.
They're going to need it. So that's a fantastic thing. Last week we talked about China's new solar highway being opened up, of course, week 1, China's heralded solar highway closed after thieves stole one of the panels. So this is an absolute mess. The highway wasn't even open for a week, and they came in, ripped out this panel. I mean, it's not a normal panel like a solar panel that you would steal off of somebody's roof or something. This is a seriously reinforced thing for roadway. It's not easily resellable or anything else, but somebody stole one panel, damaged 6 or 7 others, and it looked like they used some kind of corrosive on it. This was not a small time job. They were really melting it out of the road. But that's really, really sad, and the highway is now closed.
Right. Interesting stuff here. Outside of that, they do mention in this article some kind of interesting characteristics about the actual road, right? And they say electricity from the project could melt the snow in the winter to make driving safer.
Sure, absolutely.
Right?
I mean, it makes perfect sense. You have these little, they don't need to be a huge amount above ambient temperature, but it's enough, at least if it's like 34, 35 degrees, little heater coils in the road, you could actually heat itself and keep it safer.
And they get another could here, so it doesn't sound to me like it is. But
no, I don't think that this one is.
It could also remote charge electric cars, which we love talking about, right?
Yep, absolutely.
And then they do mention that, as a side note here, this is kind of a little bit of a little propaganda game here, but China became the world's top solar power producer last year, producing 78 gigawatts of solar power annually, compared to 40.3 gigawatts in the U.S. U.S. ranks 4th after Japan and Germany. Oh, no.
Okay. That's what we're here for. Let's make it happen, people.
Okay, so what's next on the boards, Jay?
Well, that was global news, national news. That Panasonic is a Japanese company, obviously, but they have significant investments in the United States, and they've been investing with Tesla in this new Gigafactory 2, which is in Buffalo, New York.
Yeah.
And they just started production. Actually, they started in December, but they were very, very quiet about it because they wanted to make sure they were up to numbers and up to snuff before they had to turn it on. But after a brief trial run, Panasonic reports that cell manufacturing for the solar roof is now underway at this factory, and that the batteries are being cranked out.
Yeah, and it looks like you're in a factory that makes the heterojunction thin cell solar panels. I wonder if that it implies something about the technology they're using here. It looks like there was a kind of a joint venture in terms of supporting the capital investment to get this thing off the ground. Here's the thing. It's like this whole solar roof. People are just captured by this idea. the amount of times people ask me about the solar roof, and I got to go through the story about a little bit of interaction with these fellas, and then where it's likely to be, and what news we do know about, and then how it'll actually take shape. I mean, people love this concept. It's like Musk has done it again, right? He's done it again. He's always captured people's imaginations, just like the Powerwall. We're going to Powerwall. That was like 3-4 years ago.
It's that,
oh my goodness, it's going to change the world, right?
Yeah.
He's got the roofs. He has this ability to just kind of catalyze interest globally.
Well, I think what
the
he said,
Australian 100-day bet with it. I mean, it's one thing after another.
One after another. But I think what he said was that it's going to cost the same as a regular re-roofing for somebody, and that's like, why would you do it any other way? If the cost is going to be the same as a normal non-solar roof, and then you have to pay for the solar in addition, why else? What else would you do? It makes perfect sense.
And there's been a lot of analysis, and this always happens. Like, he makes a big kind of announcement, and then it's people pre-buy it, right?
Yep.
I'm not sure if the Tesla roofs can be pre-bought, but
no,
they can be, right?
They could. So, I don't know if you can do it anymore. They have quite the backlog. It was California only,
right?
It's not anymore, as far as I understand, but it's still the select markets only.
I gotcha.
But the nice thing about this is that they're completely exempt from the whole tariff conversation because they're being manufactured in Buffalo, New York.
Right. Not to mention the fact that are they thin film? We got to look into that.
Yeah.
So, but the point that I was wanted to just share is post Barnum and Bailey announcement.
Yep.
And around the time people are buying it, you'll have someone come out, a third party, and they'll evaluate it and they'll say why it's wrong. I've seen this like in each of his technologies.
For sure.
And so for the roofs, they were making comparisons. So these articles are out there, everybody. You can check them out. But from my perspective, there were some core pieces to this that were relevant in the costing, right? One was they were talking about how they're making these cells so strong, so resistant to damage that a lot of the times in roof types of tiles, apparently when you ship them, they break and there's a lot of loss, right? Mm-hmm. So eliminating that. And then eliminating and then incorporating the cost of solar, and then putting it all together, you're able to get a better longevity out of these systems potentially too. So this is the kind of math that they're working to when they say cheaper than a regular roof.
Right,
it's probably not cheaper than a regular roof.
Out of pocket expense is not going to be cheaper. It's long-term ownership, and I'm sure they're factoring in the total cost of energy, et cetera, a lot of things.
You need a new acronym instead of like levelized cost of energy. It's like levelized cost of roof ownership with energy. Right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Very cool stuff.
Yeah, it's really, really neat, and like I said, that they're tariff exempt. They are real domestically manufactured. Could be really interesting. I said it over and over again. I need more information on this. No one has ever been able to show me. The one thing I really, really worry about are these lovely little tiles are the interconnects.
Sure.
Like how they all connect to each other. I mean, how does that work? Even with an existing system with large panels, you have connectivity issues, and if you have little breaks between these, I mean, we live in a harsh climate. We have a lot of sun, a lot of wind, a lot of corrosion, and so any of those exposed contacts that would have to connect between the tiles would really, I would be susceptible to that kind of environment, but they claim it's okay. So
this is the magic of this business. That's what the absolutely. It's very interesting stuff. I mean, I think that when I hear these new announcements, and not to dig too much, Tesla always gets kind of overtime on with us, right? But it's like I think that there's always a core value point in here, and I kind of wonder what is he shooting for? What's the real thing that's being shot for? And I think it's housing starts.
Yeah,
I think it's basically creating a technology that once it scales can be a de facto roof technology, and that changes the game. So there's X amount of million housing starts nationally across the country, right? So if it's like, what should we choose? Well, and if that's like a package.
Well, they've got like 5 different styles right now, right? And it's an HOA's dream.
Yeah, you're right. HOAs, geez, right? Exactly. So people love this stuff. This is very exciting. You know why I know it'll be successble, because regardless of what I'm thinking or saying, I kind of want it to.
There you go.
So
you want one of everything.
Yeah, no. I'll be that old guy at 80 with like, and here's that thing that came out back in 2010. That was.
Did you ever get your windmill? You didn't get your
windmill? No, we're talking to that guy on Craigslist right now.
Okay. So the last thing we got is the Hawaiian Electric Company has a new newsletter, the Distributed Energy Resources Connected newsletter. And this is actually really interesting. I mean, it's targeted at installers because it really delves deep into certified equipment, customer interconnect tools. But there's actually a lot of information in here about the different programs that you can actually apply for, the CGS, the CSS, NEM expansion, et cetera, that we keep talking about. And it's not terribly long. This one's
2 or 3 pages.
It's 3 pages.
Got some graphics in it.
But it really would be, if you are in the market for solar or interested in the technologies that are available in the state, I would definitely recommend a read. We're going to post that link up on the Solar-Coaster website, and you can go and find it. But I would follow that because it's going to be, was it say a weekly thing or is it a monthly thing? I think this is monthly. The inverter list was weekly that they refreshed the
so
inverter list.
I think this has been around for a little bit, this newsletter, but it is something just to be aware of. It's something we hadn't brought up on the show, and we received the email maybe yesterday from Miko, and I think there's a nice opportunity here for people to just keep abreast of what's happening.
Right.
So yeah, check it out. It is on Maui Electric's website. Clean Energy Hawaii, producing clean energy. DER newsletter, January 2018.
Yeah.
All
Excellent.
Right.
All right, we're going to go into commercial break, and we're going to hear from Abigail Ross Hopper from SEIA. And after that interview, as we said, this is a pre-recorded interview, but we will be taking phone calls, and you can discuss what we heard.
That number.
Aloha and welcome to Maui Solar Project. It is easy to feel rejuvenated just stepping outside on a magnificent Hawaiian day. Maui Solar Project is here to help harness that energy you feel in your body and use it to power your homes and businesses. As lore tells us, Maui harnessed the sun so as to slow its path across the sky. Join Maui Solar Project as we harness the sun's energy and slow Hawaii's dependence on fossil fuels. Call Maui Solar Project at 269-2352. MauiSolarProject.org.
Tabuchi Electric, a leading worldwide inverter manufacturer, presents the second generation of the Eco-Intelligent Battery System, the IBIS. Tabuchi's grid-friendly system includes a high-efficiency inverter, stackable batteries, and integration with Jelly software for the most adaptable battery storage system on the market. The system is optimized for energy management and cost performance. Maximize your solar investment with Tabuchi's electric Eco-Intelligent Battery System.
The Sonnen Battery Eco is an energy storage solution that utilizes intelligent energy management software. The system is available in a variety of storage capacities and allows for expansion. Sonnen Battery Eco allows you to save money by harvesting energy from your solar PV system and using that stored energy when rates are more expensive. Sonnen Battery Eco is specifically designed to provide you and your family peace of mind in the event of power outage. Our unique power detection system will sense outages in real time and automatically switch over to battery power. See Sonnen Battery Eco at sonnen-battery.com.
MIT founded Pika Energy, makers of the Pika Energy Island, a smart energy management system that uses solar panels, lithium batteries, and intelligence to manage your energy and keep you powered even during outages. With a clean, intelligent alternative to grid power, you're in control of your energy future. Pika's Energy Island lets you manage electrical costs with HECO-ready self-supply functions. Pika's largest battery, the Harbor Plus, offers 16 kilowatt hours of stored energy and can power loads of up to 10 kilowatts. And if you need more capacity, just add a second or even third Harbor Smart battery to the same system for a maximum of 48 kilowatt hours of usable storage. Pika Energy, own your power. To learn more, visit pika-energy.com.
All right, that's our commercial run there. Thank you very much to our wonderful sponsors.
Yep, really appreciate you guys always keeping us on the air. We're going to be talking to Abigail Ross Hopper right now, who is...
Yeah, Abigail Ross Hopper is the CEO and president of SEIA. SEIA.org is the website. This is the Solar Energy Industries Association.
So SEIA.
SEIA.org.
Yes.
Okay, so we got Abigail on the line here, right? So we're going to move right into this.
Welcome,
Great,
Abigail.
thanks for having me.
Now, Abby, we're really interested to hear from your perspective on a couple of different things, but can you start out by giving our listeners a sense of what SEIA does and what your background is and how you found yourself in this kind of really pivotal position in the country right now?
Sure. So SEIA is a national trade association for the solar industry. We lobby on both the federal and the state level. We have about 1,000 member companies in every single state across the country. We do policy, we do politics, we do lots of communications, and we have a great research staff as well so that we can, know what's happening in the solar industry and really tell that story. SEIA's been around for about 43 years. I've been here for almost one. I come from a background of private practice of law, state government, and federal service as well. So it's an exciting time to be in this spot. You're right.
Absolutely. So did I hear you right? Did I hear 43 years?
Yeah, the association is 43 years old.
Whoa, what a history. That's amazing. And the website is so deep. There's such a great archive of resources. Over the last few days, we were trying to get our head around, more specifically what SEIA is engaged with. And I was kind of like, whoa, you're really doing an amazing job of providing resources online for us.
Oh, good. I'm glad. We just redid the entire website in the last few months. Actually, we rolled it out at SPI, where we met last.
Right.
So it's an exciting achievement of ours this year.
Yeah, nice work. Really, probably one of the most impressive websites that covers that content that I've seen. And I believe we spent a lot of time on the web looking for information for the show. So let me ask you, I want to dig right into the kind of crux of the issue right now. What is the general feeling or mood in both the industry and the government and across the nation right now from your perspective?
About solar?
Yes, about solar.
I would say it's a real juxtaposition. I would say that kind of on the positive side, that solar continues to be incredibly cost competitive. It is becoming more and more accessible to people and to businesses and to utilities in states all across the country. We're competing head-to-head with other forms of generation. So, that if left and allowed to grow, we're going to triple our installations in the next few years. So It's incredibly positive. There's also this significant anxiety right now about this trade case that I know we're going to talk about and kind of what that means to the industry and how that could have a really detrimental impact on this growth that otherwise would be taking place.
Absolutely. We're seeing comments from business owners throughout the web saying, they're really concerned about how this is going to affect, the solar industry and everything related to solar. So let's see. Let's dig right into this policy that you have proposed to the White House, an American First plan for solar energy. Can you give us the rundown of that, please?
Yeah. So, as we think about kind of let me just back up a second. So this trade case that I mentioned, I'm sure most of your listeners know, is a request to put tariffs on all imports coming in from any country, any solar modules coming in from any country in the U.S.
And cells, yes.
Yeah, and cells, exactly. And so the president is the ultimate decision maker. And as we think about what motivates the president, obviously putting America first. And so we really have thought about, well, what does it mean to put America first in the solar industry? And it means, first of all, saying no to those tariffs, because we think that they will hurt jobs and hurt investment. It means saying yes to national security, obviously making sure that we're building and creating and, developing this solar energy here in the United States is important. Saying yes to our to energy security, right? Making sure that we have a diverse supply and a diverse portfolio of energy is important. Saying yes to job creation. Obviously, if solar continues to grow, we're going to continue to create new jobs. And so it's really consistent with everything the president talks about it. Job creation, innovation, investment right here in this country.
I see. And so we have a decision coming on the 26th. Is that correct? We're about a couple weeks out of hearing what the White House has to say?
Yeah, this is a question I have. It's been delayed a number of times already. Is there any chance it's going to be delayed, or will we get a final decision?
Yeah, so it has been delayed one time. And so January 26th is the deadline. If you ask 100 people in Washington, you're going to get 100 different answers, but we're certainly hearing some sense that he might announce his decision before January 26th. So anytime between tomorrow and the 26th. So we have a 2-week window there where we're waiting to hear what he's decided. I think there's very little chance that he will delay the decision further than that.
Are we at a place where it's kind of a foregone conclusion that that the administration is going to decide in favor of the tariffs, or do you think there's still a chance it might not go that direction?
If you look historically at these kind of cases, there were a fair number of them in the 80s and the 90s. There were a significant number of cases where the International Trade Commission recommended a tariff and the president said no. So that precedent is certainly out there, and obviously that's what we've been lobbying hard for. that being said, we understand this president is interested in being tough on trade and tough on sort of some specific other countries. And so we've really made the case that this case isn't about those other countries, right? This case is about global imports. It's about protecting American workers. It's about protecting the investments that this country has made in solar energy. And so we put forth a proposal to allow an import license fee to be imposed on imported solar panels. So it's a small fee that all imports would pay, would go directly to domestic manufacturers. And I think sort of threads the needle very elegantly between helping our domestic manufacturing here in the cell and module field, and also allowing demand to continue to grow, so there's someone left to buy those cells and modules.
Right. What's the difference for those that don't know? That a tariff, which sounds like money you would pay when you import something to the United States, and a license fee, which sounds like something you would pay money to import something to the United States.
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and in terms of how the importer would experience it, they're exactly the same. They would pay X number of cents to bring that product in. The difference is how many cents, right? And what we're proposing for an import license fee is lower than what the petitioners have asked for a tariff. But much more importantly, it's what happens with that fee. So you might pay, I'm just making up numbers, pay 5 cents on an import license fee, pay 5 cents for a tariff. You pay 5 cents for a tariff, it goes into the U.S. Treasury. If you pay 5 cents on an import license fee, it goes directly to domestic manufacturers who recapitalize, to retool their plants, to train their workers. And so, those 5 cents have a pretty significant impact, whereas the 5 cents of a tariff simply go to the Treasury and don't create much of incentive for a new manufacturing here.
Right.
So we have a matter of the direction and the timing of how that money flows effectively. Mm-hmm. Right. And then have you had any direct contact with the administration, either with the president himself or with some of his members of his administration team?
Yeah, we were actually trying to count up today how many meetings we've had. We think well over 100 meetings over the last few months with members of the president's cabinet, members of his administration, career professionals in the administration, as well as members of Congress about this, governors, state legislators, state public service commissioners. So we really cast our net incredibly wide. And there's been pretty strong support for our position and against tariffs. So we, in the last week, have met with Secretary Ross, the Secretary of Commerce, and met with Ambassador Lighthizer. He is the U.S. Trade Representative.
Gotcha. Any interesting stories inside of that? I have to ask.
I
that you want to tell us?
Building my collection of Hershey Kisses signed by the president. So
Nice.
Great. Okay, so Jay, what do you think? You want to move into another component of this?
Tax. Let's talk about tax.
Let's talk about taxes.
So this is a big issue for everybody out here. We have a wide adoption, as you're probably aware already, and people who are purchasing solar equipment, now solar plus storage, are always concerned about the tax code, and there's been some significant changes this year.
Yeah, so, here's a great story that came out in 2017, is that the investment tax credit, which, as you know, is the most important federal tax policy to incent solar, went through tax reform unscathed. So Republican House, Republican Senate, Republican President, and our tax credit did not change. And that's a testament to, frankly, the lobbying work that we've done, the great work by our member companies to build and to grow and to prove to legislators in both parties how important that tax policy and consistent tax policy is to allow for growth. What has changed and what did change in the tax bill is obviously that the corporate tax rate, right, went from 35 to 21%. That will have an impact on the amount of tax equity that's in the market. It's available to be utilized to finance solar projects, so that could be impactful. And then I mean, my goodness, you probably heard about the beat, which we all learned what that meant in the waning days of December. But, that could have some impact on the usability of our tax credit. So those are the parts where we're still working with Congress to make sure that we can continue to deploy capital. But it shouldn't be overlooked what a great success we had in protecting the investment tax credit through tax reform.
Yeah, that tax credit has been extended till when now?
So the tax credit on the corporate side is scales down over the next 4 years and then remains at 10%. And then on the residential side, it goes away after 2022, right?
2022.
Yeah, 2022.
Okay.
Gotcha. And then out here, we're in Maui County, Abby, and our environment here in Hawaii and specifically in Maui, there's a lot of new programs with the utility. In fact, today we just received an email not an hour ago confirming what's called CGS Plus, a new version of a backfeeding program where the utility has certain controls. Smart Export, which is a way you can monetize your batteries and actually provide a revenue stream potentially. And then NEM expansion allows for non-export expansion to NEM systems. So there's a lot of really cutting-edge stuff happening out here, not to mention all the technology that's being deployed. So are you familiar with what's going on kind of in this leading-edge area of renewable energies? And do you have any thoughts about how the community is relevant to the rest of the country?
Oh, absolutely. So, I'm very aware of the groundbreaking work that's happening in Hawaii, and both on the technology side and the policy side. And you are the tip of the spear in terms of helping us all understand, sort of from a technical point of view, how these technologies work together and how they integrate into the grid and how we anticipate and solve any issues. And then from a policy point of view, kind of, what pricing mechanisms are appropriate, what customers really care about, how do customers like to purchase solar plus storage together, what kind of products are they interested in. So, we look to Hawaii all the time to really serve as a model for what we hope will be deployment in the rest of the country. Your penetration rates are higher than anywhere else, as I'm sure you know. And so, our goal is to have all of the country have the amount of the penetration rates that you have there in Hawaii.
So that's a really encouraging kind of viewpoint for our listeners, because I think a lot of the time, part of the reason we started the show was because there's so much tech and changes to how this operates. We wanted to keep our listeners and the community abreast of what's happening, So if they can feel that what they're doing here is really helpful to the rest of the country or relevant or even a light leading forward, that's kind of an interesting place for the community to be in.
Yeah, no, it is. And I think, it can sometimes, I'm sure, feel a little overwhelming or maybe dispiriting if you think, oh, there's, problem, challenge. But it's really a great learning opportunity for the rest of us. So we appreciate the hard work you're doing there.
That's cool. Okay, here's another question for you. Are you familiar with how Hawaii's representatives are playing a role in this discussion in D.C. about solar, renewable energies? I mean, how does that take shape, if at all?
Yeah, no, your senators, both Senator Hirono and Senator Schatz, are fabulous advocates for the solar industry, consistent champions. We appreciate their support a lot. We especially, Schatz is on the Appropriations Committee and the Sunshot program, which is really one of the important R&D tools that we have in our arsenal. He's always been a big supporter of funding for that. And your House members are fabulous. I had the opportunity to engage with your congressional delegation in my last job when I was working on offshore wind. So I came to your beautiful state several times to talk about other sources of renewable energy and had a great opportunity to talk with your co-del. You're well represented here in Washington.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, appreciate that.
I'm really happy about that. So let's think a little future forward. What would you say is your wish list for solar throughout the USA and the world? I mean, what is your kind of most ambitious vision of what could happen?
Oh my gosh, this is a great question.
You can break this up short term, long term.
Yeah, I'll break it down. In the United States, solar will serve 25 to 40% of the U.S. energy demand, electricity demand, and it will be incorporated with other technology solutions, and customers of all sorts, utilities as customers, corporations as customers, people as customers will have lots of choices about how they get their energy, when to use their energy, where their energy comes from, how much control they'd like to have over it. And so, I believe strongly the diverse energy portfolio is best for our economic security and our energy security. And I think solar will play a huge part of that. I think the technology will continue to evolve, and there will be sort of breakthroughs and discoveries that you and I can't even imagine. But when I think about sort of what the U.S. will look like, I have 3 kids, and I think they will see solar panels on roofs and drive past our solar farms on the highway and see turbines in the distance, and it will look normal to them. That will be their expectation of what their energy source looks like. And that's what I see for the U.S., that's what I see for the world. And I think it's entirely achievable because this is one of the most innovative and exciting industries in the country.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Absolutely. Of course, if Tesla has their way, you won't see them.
So we just had
continuing to innovate.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Speaking of innovation, you have a company like Tesla out there doing all this groundbreaking work. I understand the Buffalo plant for the roof tile cells just ramped up in the last week or so. Mm-hmm. There was a discussion this year that Tesla's acquisition of Solar City actually impacted the overall volume of residential sales throughout the country. Do you feel like that is an accurate comment? I've heard this in a lot of different fronts in the industry.
I'm not going to comment on any particular company, but I would say that 2017 was an important year in terms of the large residential companies sort of taking a look at their business model and making sure that it was responsive to what consumers wanted. As the cost of solar has come down so precipitously, right? There's been less and less leasing and more ownership. And so
Absolutely.
Some of the loan products have become more interesting to consumers as opposed to the leasing models. And, those lower costs let smaller companies participate. I'm sure you've heard about the long tail, and they get to participate. They have more opportunity to participate. So I think the market is evolving and maturing more so than one particular company's actions.
Yeah, that's an interesting take on that. Just as a small side discussion, community solar was recently authorized by the Public Utilities Commission out here in Hawaii. And so there's something interesting about community solar in terms of this democratizing access to renewable energies. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think that community solar is critically important for all the reasons that you just said. It's important to make sure that we can reach a diverse customer base. It's important to ensure that it's accessible to lots of folks. It's important to sort of break up different business models, right? And sort of have different, like I was saying, choice, right? Have customers be able to have choices in terms of how they get their energy. So it's great. I didn't realize that Hawaii had authorized that. So that's exciting to hear. It's really, as we look at 2017, and our final numbers aren't out yet, but just looking at the trends over the first 3 quarters, community solar has been a really strong area of growth this year.
That's exciting to hear. That's exciting to hear. And Abby, just kind of one last thing from our side, unless Jay has something else to jump in with. We have a upcoming show on local governance, and so we're going to have the outgoing administration, Mayor Alan Arakawa, as part of that conversation, and then the mayoral candidates who are presumably going to be at the helm of the future of renewable energies here in Maui County. Do you have a message for any of them when we do go through that show in the upcoming weeks?
That's interesting. It's all politics is local. That all permitting is local, despite what entity has the authority on paper. And so, I would actually have a stronger advice to folks that are trying to develop solar in those local communities, as opposed to decision makers, which is build bridges with communities. Understand what community members want and then provide that service to them, rather than sort of coming in with grandiose ideas about what you think they need. It's always more successful
That's
in
a
that
great,
way.
it's a great position. I like that a lot. All right. Well, is there anything else, Jay, that you'd like to cover?
No, just I'd like to extend a little bit of airtime to Abby. If there's anything else you want to say to our listeners, both private and corporate.
Yeah, and the only other thing I would say, which continues to be a really important focus for me, is just raising the issue of diversity in the solar industry. We are incredibly innovative and exciting area to be in, but gosh, we all look a lot alike. And so I am personally committed, and my organization is committed, and this industry, I would like to be committed to ensuring that both our customer base is diverse and our workforce is diverse. And so you'll continue to hear from SEIA kind of tangible things that companies can do to make sure that we are extending the reach of opportunities in solar to all of our citizens. I
like that message quite a bit. I think that Hawaii and Maui are kind of doing some good work in that areas right now as we speak. I mean, we're pretty well spread out in the communities, and we're right now we're looking at technologies that can really with that ownership financing model you described, with that trend that can anyone can gain access to. So we're seeing a lot of movement out here in that regard.
I feel like a trip is in order, don't you?
I do. I think we would love to have you out here.
Love to host you.
And then maybe get you in the studio.
I love it. Yeah, I think we should go for the three-peat, right?
What's that?
We should go for the third interview. I like it.
Okay, let's do it. That sounds great. That sounds great. Well, Abby, I can't thank you enough for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I know you're in the middle of a really important time right now in D.C. related to what's happening with the White House and your program proposals. So really, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the SolarCoaster with us.
Oh, it's such an honor. Keep up the great work. It's so exciting to talk to people who are as enthusiastic about solar as I am. So I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Okay, we'll talk soon. Thank you, Abby.
Thank you again.
Okay, bye, guys.
Okay, aloha.
All right. Well, that was a great experience there listening. Thanks so much to Abby for coming on the air with us.
Yeah, great to connect with her again. They're doing so much. Specifically, we want to reiterate exactly what was said in this interview. So the ITC tax credit, that is the federal
investment tax credit, that's 30%. This is what kind of drives solar throughout the country.
Drives residential solar adoption, right?
And well, also it's for commercial too.
Commercial as well?
Yeah.
Okay, that's excellent. So 30% has remained intact. The electric vehicle credit that we really thought we were losing.
Yeah, at one point in this conversation, even just now, we were kind of reiterating it. We were like, did it make it? We know we had this conversation.
half of us we're not sure, and so we had to go look it up again to make sure.
But that was on the chopping block very early on,
right?
And it looks like it was able to be preserved. So one of the things. Whoops, there you go.
All right.
Excuse me, guys. One of the things that was interesting about this is that Abby said, "Hey, this is really a reflection of a lot of the lobbying work that was done.
Right.
The preservation of the ITC in its current form, and then also the electric vehicle tax credit. Right. So those are real successes, kind of in the industry right now. Right. And so it's an exciting time to see that those things have actually been able to be protected.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to open up the lines now. If you'd like to call in and discuss any of the things you heard Abby talk about or anything else solar related, certainly give us a call.
Yeah, 242-7800 is our call-in line. Do give us a call. We got some cool stuff we're going to talk about until we hopefully get a call. But there is a great article out there that kind of, I think, follows up on this. A lot of the things that were covered. In the Energy 202, the GOP tax plan, is a windfall for gas and energy. Is that the one we're going to take a look at?
This is off Washington Post. Energy 202. Why wind and solar lobby is terrified of Senate tax plan. Basically, it goes into detail about the BEAT. What does that stand for?
Yeah, so this one actually, I think we should jump into that after because but the one of the core things that this article talks about is the lowering of the overall corporate tax rate, right?
Sure.
And then how solar systems are funded, right? So effectively, when large multinational companies come in, so they have all this tax equity, right? And then they want to fund these programs in order to utilize that. So with the tax credits, right? And effectively, the reducing of the corporate tax burden reduces the amount of tax equity that's out there for people to utilize, right? So they're saying, hey, there may not be as much of an incentive for these corporations to come in and put money in.
Yes and no. They still have to pay a lot of taxes, and I'm sure they're going to want to offset them. So I don't know if I really see that particular argument. The one that's way worse is coming at us.
Right. So I mean, but that's
I
of this
understand that,
right?
and it's a significant drop in corporate tax. What is it coming to?
I think
we don't have the number in front. But again, so a large scale company,
14 percentage point cut in corporate tax rate.
That's
what
it was. It was huge. It's a double digit tax cut for corporations. But what you were saying is that basically, like MECO would not fund a rollout of massive, like 50 megawatts of solar by themselves. They would go somewhere and basically get a loan. Right?
Well, it's more like you have companies that know they're going to have to pay a bunch of taxes, and they also know that the return on investment is so aggressive for these systems. So they'll go and they'll fund. Like an example, right? Like one of our partner companies funded 4 250 kilowatt solar farms a few years back, which we were so excited to be a part of, right? And those systems, they cost about $4 a watt. They're about 1.3 megawatts, right? So this required a company that had about $5 million in tax liability to come in and put the money in, take the tax credits, right? And they didn't have to pay those taxes. And instead, they invested into these solar systems.
So it's an investment, not necessarily a loan per se.
No, they own it. Those are the owners of those systems. Okay. So a lot of the times it'll be like an LLC. It'll be like X solar farm or, whatever, Pukalani solar farm. Right. And these guys come in, they have maybe a lease on the land, and they have an agreement with the utility that says, yep, we're going to buy that energy from you, right? These types of systems really are all fully, done. They don't exist nowadays. Those opportunities are not as robust as they were before. They used to, the ones that these were doing were the FITs, the feed-in tariffs, the big ones, right? And effectively, the company would come in, they'd drop down the money, they'd buy the equipment, they'd lease the land, they'd put up the system, they start to sell energy to the grid. Yep. That's why they did it, right? Okay. And it made sense for them because in the absence of having those tax credits, both federal and state, then the advantages of depreciation, they would have to take that money and just give it right to the government, right? But now, if that tax rate lowers in that exact example, and they don't, let's say their tax liability was $5 million, right? Then now it's not that. Now it's
14 points left.
Right, 14 points less, right? So it literally contracts the amount of available.
So it changes the game a little bit by who would be the target for actually rolling out these installations.
Right.
Okay. Right. Okay, that makes more sense.
And I feel compelled to say my disclaimer. We are talking about taxes. Neither Jay or I are CPAs.
No.
We're just giving our best shot to explain what we're seeing in the news right now and what Abby kind of shared with us, kind of reflecting a little bit on that from the conversation.
Right. So then the other thing that we're further on, I really want to get to this bit because the BEAT, what they're calling the BEAT, is the
just the base erosion anti-abuse tax, but you're gonna have to explain this one, Jay.
Okay, well, base erosion anti-abuse tax. I read a bit about this, and what it is a tax on multinationals that could be levied against multinational corporations when they're shipping money, jobs, and print manufacturing overseas. So it's the economic base that they're referring to as the base erosion, which means we want to keep jobs in the United States. It doesn't sound like a bad thing. The issue is that a lot of these multinational corporations, which are big enough to have this kind of tax burden and would take on these projects, would get levied an additional tax that would completely counter the potential ITC tax credit that they would get.
So well, I can see the result here.
The result is a wash. It's almost net zero.
So this is a big concern, this BEAT thing, and it says the result. There's a quote here that I'll read and at least feel confident with the quote. It says it would also make it harder for banks and other large companies that are the principal source of tax equity for renewable energy to know when closing on tax equity investments whether they will receive the tax credits on offer for making the investments. So they're not really getting clarity of whether they're going to get it or not.
Right. No, it's very, very murky at this point. Who's going to get assessed? How much it's going to be?
And that's a big deal.
And but it's a scary thing. Are you going to engage in a multi-million-dollar build-out when you don't know if you're going to get a return on it?
Yeah. And it says while we are grateful that the Senate tax proposal leaves the current phase-down schedules for wind and solar energy tax credits unchanged, the bill's BEAT provisions undermine our capacity to use renewable energy tax credits.
Yep.
And so we respectfully and urgently ask the BEAT program be amended.
Yes.
This is pretty powerful stuff here they're talking about. So, well, I mean, I think that the big takeaway is that, we're really happy that the ITC kept its current form. The EV tax credit is in place. But there are some concerns about how solar systems are going to be funded, how the actual tax credits can be applied in different circumstances for funding large-scale stuff.
So it's the large-scale stuff that's really affected by this tax plan, though. The residential stuff seems okay.
Well, maybe.
For
but
now.
The question becomes, some of the times these PPAs they're funded with large tranches of money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you have these big funds that come in. So does this apply to that? Maybe it does. I don't know.
Well, I can see it. Another upshot of that is when you have these large-scale programs, they'll be importing a lot of materials, right? And so just in volume purchasing as a nation, if volume goes down, then the pricing might not be as aggressive, especially if there's a tariff in place.
Right. And
so there's a double down.
And we did hear a little bit about the tariff too. So outside of the tax conversation here, we did hear a little bit about what Abby's perception was of the tariffs that are coming down the road. 26th was what is the deadline.
26th
right?
is the final deadline. She said that any point between now and the 26th, we should hear it. It's really, really unlikely. It's actually been extended a number of times, but it is unlikely that it will be pushed off again.
Yeah, and she had said that there was some precedent in the past when you look at how presidents respond to the recommendation for them to vote differently. So it's not a foregone conclusion, which is what I asked her, that it will be a levied tariff. It's possible. It could happen. We'll see that tariff, come on. That's a possibility. She said something like, I think, Joni, used to like the term, she could ask 100 people, you get 100 different opinions on what's going to happen there, right? So there is we definitely, there's definitely this moment in time right now in the next couple of weeks where a lot of important decisions are going to be made. From my perspective, what I didn't bring up in the interview with Abby is that when I talk to other solar company people, owners, executives throughout the country, they're saying that tariff, that likely tariff of about 30%, is already being priced into solar panel supplies.
I'm not in the industry, and I've heard that people took that and marked up the panels, and then they're just basically taking the profit now while they can.
Yeah, and manufacturing facilities were selling at below product production costs before in order to compete, right?
Sure.
So they said, oh, here's an opportunity. Let's jack up prices. So we're seeing, the prices go up that 30% already. So what it's quite possible that if that decision comes in, it won't have any major impact on the price per watt that gets installed, right? So that seems to be the language that's out there in the nation across the country right now from people that are doing this day to day.
So it's not going to be as painful as we all think.
They're all actually their attitude is really interesting. They're like, oh, what are we going to? People will ask the question. Non-industry guys on these conference calls, and they'll be like, all right, well, hey, this is what's going on. So very interesting discussion.
Right. One future focused thing that I really want to talk about. I've had this. It keeps trying to get pushed off, but I got an article across my desk. The DOE invests $12 million to improve solar forecasting. Wait, what? The Department of Energy is interested in the weather. And it makes sense because the reason why is we're going to have more and more renewable, non-generator. They're generators, but they're not generating like from diesel and stuff. Non-fixed
energy.
Non-fixed energy. And so they have a real issue where they need to rely on the weather report to figure out how much power is actually going to be on the grid and where to pull it from, when they're going to need peak.
Accurate modeling.
So real accurate modeling. So they're actually putting together $12 million in funding to develop new models of weather reporting, specifically in the really short-term stuff. They want to know what's going to happen in the next 48 hours, and they want to know what's going to happen in the next 6 hours.
So what a great ancillary benefit that we get from the Department of Energy here. We might actually have accurate weather
reporting. You think so?
I love it.
I don't know about that one.
it could make the weatherman a guy that everybody likes rather than one that you're annoyed by.
There you go. Absolutely. Excellent. So we are the SolarCoaster out here every Friday at 1:05 p.m. Check us out, solar-coaster.com.
Hey everybody, this has been a really interesting show here with Abigail Ross Hopper. Big thanks to SEIA and all our sponsors, Maui Solar Project, Tabuchi Electric America, Sonnen Battery, Pika Energy, and all our listeners out there. We got something like 1,000 impressions on our post today. That's kind of neat. That's a first timer for us. So,
sneak out there and like us on social media. Appreciate it.
Hey, Aloha Friday, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Have a good one.
We'll see you next Friday.